What's up, gamers? Yojimbo here, and we have a video for Diablo 4. I'm a little bit late on this one, and a lot of you may have already heard this news, but if you haven't, we're going to go over it here today, and that's on the Campfire chat, I guess you can call it, that they had on YouTube. So the devs did a update. This is in the style of what their dev updates have been for Diablo. But this was not a specific dev update. They wanted to be clear and separate those two things. This is more of a general chat where they wanted to get in front of the community and talk about things that the community is discussing and problems that they're aware of and things that they're going to be changing or fixing going into the future. There are some pretty good things on here, and if you've watched our last video talking about the leaks that had come out for Season 1 of Diablo 4, a lot of these things were covered in this Campfire chat that they did. So we're going to go over some of those things here today, and the first one is that they will be giving us gem bags. That is one of the biggest changes that they're going to be making. This is a problem that everybody unanimously agrees on. It was talked about or complained about in the betas. It was, in the server slams, in the closed betas, all of them. This has been a problem that everybody's been aware of for a very long time. Not really sure how the game launched without having some sort of a gem bag or a change to the system, but they're aware of it, and they did say that they're going to change gems to be a crafting material, or a material that you pick up. So in that menu that you have that shows you all of the materials, the gems are going to be added to that. This is a good change. It takes the gems out of your inventory. I don't know if it's really the best change for the system. It's kind of out of left field for how Diablo has handled gems in every other game, in every other Diablo title. So not what I expected at all. And honestly, maybe even a little bit in the other direction. The pendulum swinging back, removing the gems completely from sight kind of is going to make it feel like it's not there. And I know me saying that maybe feels like it's just, no matter what they do, we're not going to be happy, but I'm just going to voice the opinions on those things, as there's other things that they had mentioned that also I think are, maybe catering to, a very small percentage of players, and maybe even taking some life out of the game. So one of the other things is going to be something we had discussed in a previous video also, and that is the Fog of War. So if anybody doesn't know what Fog of War is, that is when you look at your map and it's all covered up, and it becomes identified as you go into those areas. That is going to be uncovered, going into the seasons, assuming you have the map uncovered previously. Also, you will get the renown gains from those. Some of those renown gains will be covering or converting over into the new season. So you'll have at least the first 2 unlocks if you've gone through and done everything for the renown in each area. I do personally, I think that they should be. I'm not really sure how I feel about it on either end of the spectrum there. So on one hand, it does feel like a new season, you should have to redo, that stuff again. But on the other hand, a lot of people just don't like doing that. And if you don't have to do the campaign, then it does make sense that the map should already be identified. And we know you're not going to have to do the campaign again if you don't want to. You'll be able to just do it as like adventure mode, similar to how D3 had. You'll be able to start just leveling up in dungeons and doing that kind of stuff. If you want to do the campaign, you can. So having the map identified isn't a bad thing, but it does just take like a level of exploration out of the game, and it's just a little thing. But when you start doing a lot of these little things, sometimes it feels like maybe you're just stripping away a lot of the depth of the game, and eventually you work towards this very skeletal version of the game that is just, doesn't have much life to it. The Altars of Lilith we already knew are going to carry over if you have them done. They will carry over into the new season. That is perfectly fine. And then also we said the Fog of War is going to carry over, and some of the renown is going to carry over. Now, why is that a thing? Why at the core of the problem, why is it a problem that those things have to carry over and people don't want to redo them all the time? Well, the problem is that most people are not most people, but most people who are vocal about these things are metagamers, and that means that if there's an advantage that they can gain by doing something a certain way, even if it's just ball achingly bad, they're going to do it anyway, right? So, for instance, you don't need to have the renown completely farmed out on day 2 of the new season, but you get those extra Paragon points. So you're going to do it because it gives you that little 0.01% of an advantage over other people. Whereas you could just hit the max renown by playing the game naturally and never having to actually grind your renown out. You will passively do this by just doing dungeons for your Tree of Whispers and Nightmare Sigils and Hell Tides and stuff like that. You'll eventually get these things completed through those methods, and that's how the game was intended for them to be done, right? So that they don't feel like a burden when you're doing them. That's how I'm personally playing the game right now, because there is no reason pre-Season 1 for me to completely max out the renown as soon as humanly possible, because it's just going to get mostly reset going into Season 1. And I'm actually enjoying the renown system very much. I get done a dungeon and it says, hey, you completed the renown in this area. Click here to get your upgrade. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's a really good system. So it's a problem that doesn't affect 98% of the players in the game, but I can definitely see how the effect happens to the meta gamers, and the super hardcore players. I think that the base problem with the systems and why that they are a problem and why they need to be fixed is that they shouldn't have power tied to them, in the sense of the Lilith altars shouldn't give you stats, right? And the renown gains shouldn't give you Paragon points. What they should give you are, basic materials, maybe a random rare drop, or maybe you get a random unique when you, max out all of your renown or something like that. That way, it's not a mandatory thing that you feel like you have to get done, because it's an actual piece of power on your character, right? You need to have, if you're trying to make the best character possible, you need to have those 4 extra Paragon points for completing the renown in the areas. You need to have those added stats that you get from completing the Lilith statues throughout the game, right? Those are increases to your character's power level, and if you're trying to, win a race or get on the Lilith statue or, get the first level 100 of the season or anything of that nature, you have to do those things, right, to get that edge. So you fix the problem not by making them carry over into the future seasons. That's a band-aid that just makes... Essentially what you're doing when you make them carry over into the future seasons is you're erasing them from the game, right? You do them once, and now you're never going to think about them again. They just don't matter anymore. You completed them off the checklist, they're not going to matter anymore. So all of that dev time that went into creating a pretty cool system like the Lilith statues and the renown system and stuff like that, completely going to be forgotten about. Wasted dev time and wasted mechanics in the game. So fix the problem at its core by making them fun, unique things that you can get from the Lilith statues and the renown system. So that way, if players don't want to do them going into the future seasons, they don't have to, because there's no power tied to the character for them. And players who do want to do them can do them in their free time, complete the renown gain, go get their Lilith statues, whatever the case may be, and they get some, fun rewards in the process. I think that that's a thing. I think that that's a way to fix the problem that, everybody kind of wins. The systems still are, usable in the game. People who want to do them can do them, but you don't have to feel bad for not doing them. That being said, they've already decided that some things are going to carry over into the, into the seasons. They were even discussing in the Campfire chat that, maybe they would even look at side quests being completed, carrying over into future seasons. Again, I think that's just stripping another part of the game away, and you're just erasing that. After it's done, it's done. You never have to worry about it again. It just takes another layer out of the game that gives it life. And the thing is that the 0.01% of players don't care about that life, right? that life of the game, the depth of the game, and stuff like that. The only thing they care about is, you know, getting to the next nightmare dungeon or whatever the best way to farm experience is, which is another topic that they talked about going into Season 1. They are going to buff the nightmare sigils. So the sigils currently are not the best way to farm experience. They're not the best way to farm loot. They're not the best way to do anything. They're actually the worst way, right? Because you don't get as much experience, you don't get as much loot, and you have to deal with the downsides of the nightmare sigils, whereas you can just go to a regular dungeon and farm it. You don't have to worry about the downside. You get more experience, you get more loot, and you can probably clear them a lot faster. So they are going to buff the nightmare sigils, so that way the actual end game content will be the end game content, and you'll actually have a reason for doing those things. I think that that's definitely something that they have to work on. I think it's a very important thing. Right now, there doesn't feel like there really is an end game in Diablo. You get to level, 50, 60, 70. You grind out your pieces of gear, to make your build work, your legendaries, your uniques, and stuff like that. And then it's like, okay, well, what am I doing? I'm just farming more dungeons to get probably not better gear. And, you don't feel like you're actually working towards any kind of a goal other than maybe beating Uber Lilith, which not a lot of people have done. Apparently, it's a very challenging fight. We hopefully will be taking that on here sometime in the near future. Another problem that, again, hasn't plagued most of us, but we would all get there eventually, is that the materials, such as like veiled crystals and such, they have a cap on them, which is 9,999. And if you go over that or you reach that limit, well, what happens is you can't pick any more up. So they just get left there on the ground. And you don't realize it while you're playing the game under that cap because they instantly get picked up and you never see them. But what happens when you do reach that cap is you realize how many of those are actually dropping, and they're just stuck there on your screen. They're just items laying on the ground, which is definitely a problem. There should probably be a fix as to, why we're getting to 9,999 materials, right? But raising the cap again is a band-aid fix that, will alleviate that problem. Somebody will reach the new cap, and they'll have to deal with that when they get there. But in the meantime, those caps are being raised up, so that way we don't have to worry about that. The Druid loot tables, they talked about it being in the works. If you don't know and you're a Druid player, I'm so sorry. The Druid loot tables are bugged. So the Druids are dropping the wrong class items. If you're on a Druid, you've probably dropped like 6 unique barbarian weapons. That's not intended, and you're probably not getting the couple of build enabling helmets that you need for your build. That's not intended. They're just not dropping. So I personally haven't played my Druids since they did officially announce. I thought I was just going crazy that I was just farming nonstop and just could not get this unique to drop, the build enabling storm helmet. And meanwhile, I'm getting 45 axes for a barbarian. So I'm not playing my Druid currently. I don't really feel a reason to farm on there if I can't get the item I need. I'm leveling up another character in the meantime just to have and be ready. And, I wanted to play a rogue anyway, so it's not a big deal. Hopefully it's going to be fixed very soon. They didn't give us an exact date on that. They're saying it will be resolved before Season 1, but they didn't say if it's going to be a day before Season 1, a week before Season 1, a month before Season 1. We do know that Season 1 will be sometime in July, well, around July. They wouldn't give us a concrete date on that, which is good because they don't want to, they don't want to be stuck to something like that when they're not 100% sure on themselves yet. Other changes coming. I feel like I might have missed I feel like I might have missed one. Yeah, I think that might have been it. Overall, oh no, I did miss a big one. Right, this goes into stripping away the life of the game. You'll be able to teleport to your nightmare sigils. So just like in Diablo 3, if you were to run a Greater Rift, right? Nightmare sigils are the equivalent to Greater Rifts. Let's be honest here. If you want to do your Greater Rift, you did it from town. You opened up the portal, you did the thing, you never had a reason to go explore out into the world. Nothing else mattered other than standing in town, when you got to the end game for Diablo. You know, you stand in town, go to your Nightmare Rift, come back, stand in town, go to your Nightmare Rift, come back, so on and so forth. The only reason you ever went out into the world was to do your bounties, and eventually you just had enough bounty mats that you never even needed to go out and do that anymore. I feel like this is the slippery slope with being able to teleport to your Nightmare Sigils, you know, with that. Every time we make one of these decisions, you're stripping away the life of the game. Not needing to travel to your Nightmare dungeons because people don't want to spend 30 seconds of time, 20 seconds of time hopping on their horse and riding to the dungeon. I mean, to what end, you know? To what end? They spent so much time building this open world, you know, for people to explore and interact with each other in, and, you know, build this ecosystem of, just to strip away the need to go into it. Similar to when flying was added to World of Warcraft. Overall, I think flying in World of Warcraft is net positive, but once flying was released, the world of Warcraft slowly started dying away. There was less reason to run around in, you know, in the fields. It hurt world PvP, it hurt player interaction, it hurt just you know, most aspects of the game, because if you have the ability to fly at, you know, 2 or 3 times the speed of walking, and not having to fight mobs and not having to interact with terrain and all of this, there's no reason not to, right? You know, even if you don't agree that flying is good, if you think flying is bad, or, you know, traveling to your Nightmare Sigils is bad, I mean, teleporting to Nightmare Sigils is bad, you're still going to do it because it's the most efficient way to do it, right? It's a game mechanic. So I would much rather, personally, that they didn't do that, and they gave you more of a reason to want to travel to your Nightmare Sigil than just giving you the ability to teleport there. But if we know anything from Diablo 3, we know that that's eventually, even if we slowly head down that road, that's eventually the road we're going to head down, and we'll end up in the same place as we did in Diablo 3, where eventually most player interaction is gone. And you're just, you know, you're just farming Nightmare dungeons nonstop, just like you did with Greater Rifts. That'll be where we're going. But that's what we know about Season 1 now. There is going to be a dev update, an actual developer update live stream coming in early July. We don't have an exact date on that, but they're going to go more in depth with the changes that are going to be coming to Season 1. This is kind of just a brief outline on the things that they're looking at and working on, and we'll have concrete information on Season 1 in early July when they do that dev update, and we'll definitely stay up to date on that, guys. So, hey, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you like these updates. We're going to be doing a lot more of them, and possibly a Druid overview coming soon, as I feel like we've reached the end of that, the time on our Druid anyway, until we can get the drops back. So I'll do an overview on our build. We're playing Landslide. I'll do a video on that. Not a lot of people seem to be playing the Landslide build. Everybody is fixed in on playing Pulverize, and you know me, I don't like being a meta Andy that much, so I'm not going to play that. Landslide has been good fun. I'll see you guys later. Adios, muchachos.